Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are we live? Is my audio working? All right, looks like we are live. My audio is working. I'm gonna go ahead and post the link to the stream in the group. Okay. I am getting a late start today. I was expecting to start streaming here today at 8 o'clock Central Time, but I wasn't able to because my son ended up oversleeping for school, and so I had to take him in, and it kind of screwed up the whole morning. So, as a result, looks like I ended up missing an excellent trade here. Let's just do a little quick recap. If I had been around, this is what we look for. We look for the delta to cross under this confirmation line and then wait for the signal to pull up into the upper half in the red zone and tick down. And so our entry would have been right here on this red triangle. So there's your entry for a short. And if you rode this all the way to the delta cross in that lower power zone, looks like that would have been about 32 points. If you waited for, looks like we had a little bit of a delta squeeze here that didn't really play out, but if you waited for that, it would have been out here. Still almost 30 points. And then looks like we started pushing down after that. Still could have grabbed, well, some of these are a little bit more risky because they're in the green zone, but as you can see, like once that kicked in after here's the 8:30 open candle right here. We ticked down right there. And we do have this is what we call an impulsive move breakout entry. So we have our delta's negative, and see this delta candle, it gets a lot thicker right there. It's literally on the opening candle, the 8:30 candle. So you could have went short there. And you would at least be in that trade until we close above the delta right here. So that one would have been about 82 points had we been around for it. And now it looks like we are trying to get a little bit of support here on this pivot line. I did not check the news yet today, so let's go ahead and do that really quick. And hold on a second. My news is not coming up because I had to reboot my computer. Still getting used to this streaming software. Sometimes things just disappear on me, and I'm not really sure why. I had my news pulled up on the Safari browser, but now I can't even find my Safari browser on my screen. Where did it go? Okay. Almost there. All right. Is it showing up now? I don't know if that's just like a bug in this streaming software or what, but sometimes things just disappear. Jaywaz, good morning. I see that you're here. All right, let's see what's going on today. Looks like the next news is crude oil inventories at 9:30. As far as high impact news goes, that looks like it's really the only thing for US today. For tomorrow, we have unemployment at 7:30 in the morning. So that could lead to somewhat of a choppy day the day before big news. So we will keep that in mind. Okay, so what do we have going on the higher time frames? Let's check out the hourly. The hourly, the delta is above the confirmation line. It is negative, however, but technically we are bullish on the hourly. On the 15, looks like we're starting to get a little bit of strength to the downside here. Those delta candles are getting thicker. They're negative. Delta is under the confirmation line, so I'm going to go ahead and flip that to bearish. And on the 5-minute, we are obviously bearish because we have those nice thick delta candles heading down. Delta's under the confirmation line. So let's just see what that looks like on the 5. So here's the 5. If you were trading the 5, here's a lower high from the upper power zone that literally marks the top right there. So if you're trading the 5, that would have been a short, and you would still be in, and you would probably hold this until the signal crosses that a thin delta, not a thick delta. If it's thick, you want to stay in, but you would be up. Looks like 163 points if you're trading the 5-minute. Let's go to the 15. Looks like we had a delta squeeze on the 15 as well to the downside. So if you're trading the 15, your entry is right here. And be up about 132 points so far. We have not ticked up from the power zone, but that could be if the delta is tapering and we tick up from this lower power zone, that would be your exit on the 15. Let's check out the hourly. It's quite the drop there on the hourly. Technically, we're still bullish though. We have the delta heading up. So on the hourly, the signal could pull down in this lower green zone, and then we could start heading back up. So we'll see what happens there. Back to the 1-minute. Oh, we're starting to get a little bit of a delta squeeze long here. I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. So I am long Looks like 20,655. And it looks like our ATR is, it's kind of high right now. My number here is sitting at about 65. So my 80 tick stop, do you see how it doesn't quite hit the low over here? So that's an indication that I should probably size down a little bit. Just something else to be aware of. But hopefully she just goes and marches right on up here. Man, I have a bad headache today. I was up late. I was working on a band poster design and ended up going a lot later than I probably should have. Okay, so we just got our tick down there. So I exited. That was a 10-point loss. So see, it didn't actually hit my stop. I like to get out early on these tick downs if I'm underwater. And so my stop, even if an 80 tick stop is too small, it still rarely gets hit for me, but there are occasions where I do hit my full stop. I think it was a week or so ago, there was a case where I hit my full stop like 4 times in a row, and that was really frustrating because that hardly ever happens. So we are minus 10 points so far for the day. That updated. That's good. So JWAS, have you were you able to jump in any of those short opportunities there? Looks like it was a pretty nice ride down. Well, hopefully we'll catch a winner here shortly. So this had everything that we look for. It had the positive slope on the delta. We ticked up above the delta, and the delta was turning positive right there. That is typically a really good long. However, when you look at the 5, these delta candles are so thick and fat. It's got so much momentum. A lot of times it just takes a little bit longer for it to put the brakes on. So this area right here could be kind of turbulent. How's everybody else doing today? Anybody take any shorts down? Yeah, turned up yesterday and now it's turning down. Yeah, and you see that quite a bit on those grindy moves. It seems like it's just kind of like in somewhat of a accumulation stage for a bigger move in the other direction. I see that quite a bit. Taurus Trades, good morning. Yeah, typically when these Delta squeeze longs fail like this, if you get somewhat of a lower high on the signal, or like in this case, it's not technically, well, that actually might be a lower high there. Yeah, it's just not showing up as a flag because it didn't make it to the red zone, so you don't see the red triangle on it. But typically when those fail, if you just flip short in that case, that's typically still a winner. If you would have done that here, let's just see how much we'd be up. Oh yeah, you would have at least gone 30 points. Kevin Pardo just took a 15-point short. Good. That is better than me right now. Right before I jumped on the stream, I took some Advil to try to get it, try to take care of this massive headache that I have. You know, if I'm up late and it kind of, if I mess up my sleeping habit by just a little bit, it like affects me so much. I don't know why that is. When I was younger, I used to be able to stay up all night and it was like no problem at all, but it's like now if I'm off by like 45 minutes from the time I normally go to bed, I pay for it the next day. The 5-minute is still really strong, so kind of hard to trade against that right now. It's also kind of hard to trade with it, especially when you see like, we have this downward sloping trend line. So it's, we're in somewhat of a channel here, which is it's kind of risky to jump in a short in those. But we'll see if we have another short setup here. Jiri, same for me. Less than 8 hours of sleep and I can't function properly. Yeah. I don't quite need 8 hours. I just need I need to have the same amount of hours. It could be like 6 hours. As long as I'm like used to getting like 6 hours of sleep and it's from the same, I go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, then I'm fine. Even then, like if I get too much sleep, then it affects me too. So if I'm used to getting 6 and all of a sudden one day I try to sleep in a little bit and get 8, then I'm screwed up too. So I don't know if that's just a part of getting older or what. So we did get a tick down here. It's in the green zone. the delta is still in this lower power zone. So if you're trying to be more aggressive, you can try to take those if you believe that we're going to continue in a sustained downtrend. For me personally, I like for it to sort of prove that it's going to be more of a sustained downtrend first before I try to start entering on those in the green zone. I would prefer if the delta comes up somewhere in here, then ticks down. But ideally, I prefer it to actually make it all the way up here to the power zone and then tick down. All while the delta stays, you know, relatively flat or negative or weak, either in that lower power zone, or it could come up a little bit, but if it kind of stays flat and, you know, it's looking really weak and the signal is up here and ticking down, that's usually a good short. But I mean, just looking at the delta right now, those delta candles are still relatively thick down there. So I mean, the sellers are definitely overpowering the buyers all throughout this move. So far, these tick downs in here, all of those would have worked. But that's why it's important to identify the market condition that you're trading in first. Because if we were not in a sustained downtrend, then, I mean, those would be really risky trades if you're ranging. If you're ranging, you don't want to take any of those shorts from this green zone. But so far, it's looking like it wants to make a bigger move here. So, especially if you look at the 5-minute, the 15 is still gaining momentum to the downside. Hourly still technically bullish. It's above that confirmation line, so that could change. Hoping my coffee starts kicking in here a little bit. That's another thing. I'm so used to drinking coffee that if I stop drinking coffee, then I get a headache too. Still pushing to the downside. If you did jump in any of these, if you identified this as more of a sustained downtrend, which is detailed in the playbook, your exit then, well, you could hold for another one of these delta squeeze looking setups, or just wait and hold it and wait for the squeeze on the 5-minute, because this could just push all day long. So, you know, the less you can jump in and out of trades, the better, as long as it keeps pushing. Let's check out gold. Oh yeah, gold is pushing higher. A little bit of chop here in gold. See the alternating delta? It's thin right there. You do get this higher low, the green triangle. That's still looks like a profitable move right there. The delta is really strong in the 15 on gold. It's bullish on the hourly, bullish on the 15, bullish on the 5. So yeah, gold is in full bull mode right now. JWAS price is now back on top of the 200 moving average on the 4-hour chart. Let's look at the 4-hour. Oof. Yes, however, looking at the 4-hour, we have this delta cross here, and the signal pulled up here with a weak delta, and it ticked down. So on the 4-hour chart, this right here at 5 a.m., that was the signal to go short for a much bigger move on the 4-hour. So, I mean, this could get really ugly here, if you're looking at that. So we'll see if it can catch some support here, but that could just fall apart right there. This is a setup I would definitely short on the 1 minute if I saw that. Back over to the 1. We do have this pivot line down here. We also have our average daily range line, which is the green line. Stealth. All my indicators are saying divergence in buy signals, but price just keeps falling. Yeah, well, and that's the nice thing about the cumulative delta is you can see that you should not be buying here. Everything is super bearish on the see how thick these delta candles are, and those have a lot of bearish momentum to them. So until you start seeing the delta start to gain a positive slope here, and the signal start to coincide with that, that's the only time you should start looking at longs. Right now, it is definitely very bearish. Sorry. We'll see if it finds some support on this pivot though, and with this average daily range. Because we should get some sort of pullback at least, and then maybe some continuation later. We also have some bear flags here. Here's our flagpole. I mean, this one's kind of this one just went pretty fast. It didn't consolidate too much, but still a bear flag. Making another one right here. So we got our pole. We got our upward sloping trend line. So that's also detailed in the playbook as for a potential bear flag breakout entry. So what you're looking for there is you're looking for a tick down. The delta has to be strong in that direction, which it is. It's still thick and flat along the bottom. But if the signal ticks down, you can kind of, pretty much do that anywhere as long as you have your pull, you have your consolidation, and you get the tick down in that direction. The exit there would be a tick up against you. I still would prefer that the signal get a little bit higher up here though to take those. I don't like taking them down there in that power zone. We'll see. This might still just have another leg down here to that pivot line. Or it could slice right through and come down to this. Get the previous week low, the previous day low down here at 381.75. See how we've been hugging the 8 SMA as well, using that as resistance. So we are ticking down. Delta is still negative. If you wanted to try a bear flag breakout entry, this could potentially be it. If you wanted to be a little more aggressive. It has not confirmed yet though. Has not ticked down yet. We are ticking down now, but we have about 45 seconds to go. Yeah, you want to trade with the current, and the current right now is definitely to the downside on the 15 and the 5. I went ahead with more of an aggressive entry here on this bear flag breakout setup. It's right here on this potential support line though, so I want to see it kind of slice right through that like butter. Hopefully we get that. Yeah, it would be nice to come down here and revisit the previous week low. But because we are on this pivot, I'm going to keep a little bit of a short leash on this one. I'm going to move my stop to break even. And it took me out. Back up there, retesting the 8 SMA. That signal is still pointed down. We're just hugging the bottom of that indicator there. Coming up on Monday low and previous week low. Yep, I see the previous week low. I don't have my Monday low marked. Previous daily low is here at 382. So we might just be taking a little bit of a pit stop here before we head lower. It just had to get my break even before going lower, didn't it? You know, I typically regret moving my stop to break even more than it helps me, actually. So see how we ticked down here, but we never ticked up. So if I would have just waited for a tick up instead to exit, I'd still be in this right now. Be up over 30 points. But, you know, at the same time, you have to protect your capital too. And we had that pivot line there, so I was trying to be more conservative about it. I would definitely say we are in a sustained downtrend now, though. See how we've been down in this power zone for an extended period of time. That's what I want to see before I start calling it a sustained downtrend. And it could remain down there for hours, for the whole day. Now, when it's no longer a sustained downtrend, when I sort of change my thinking as far as what the market condition is after that, in order for that to change, this delta has to come up and pierce the midline. It could come up here just briefly and start to head back down, but once that happens, then that sort of resets things. It resets the market condition in my mind. And then from there, it could start ranging. It could go into a bullish uptrend. It could do a lot of things at that point. But as long as it stays in this lower power zone, we are in a sustained downtrend. And when it's doing that, we shouldn't be taking any trades against it. Should only be going short here. $25-point bounce off Monday low. Yeah. So we hit Monday's low. That's good to know. This could just be a little temporary bounce here. Still not above the 8. If you look at the 5, notice how the signal line is just flatlined on the bottom there. That indicates a very strong momentum move to the downside, so that's going to take a while to put the brakes on. Usually. We are starting to get a delta cross here. Delta is starting to rise. It's going above that confirmation line now. It's also turning positive. So it looks like we are going to have a little bit of a bounce here. We'll see if this is just a temporary pullback or... Well, we closed above the 8, so the last time we did that was up here at 852. Yeah, I wish I was around earlier for those big moves down. Never feels good to get in late on big moves like that. Also, keep in mind that after a big move, it kind of has a tendency to want to just chop sideways too. So if you do miss the big move and then it wants to consolidate for a couple hours, that can be a time of chop when you can potentially lose some money too. Yeah, early on, I can't count how many days I would do really well early in the morning, and then I thought I could keep going, and then end up giving it all back in the chop after it goes sideways the rest of the day. A lot of times that big momentum move only, it only plays out maybe a half hour to an hour, and then sometimes it just doesn't go anywhere after that. But we'll keep taking the setups here as long as they keep setting up. See what gold is doing now. Getting a little bit of a push down on gold. Still very bullish though. JWAS, I was reading through the playbook again yesterday. Good. Did you have any new revelations going through it a second time? Ah, that was your fourth time. Well, good. There's a lot of good info in there to, you're not gonna memorize it all at once. So use it more as a reference. And you don't even have to take all those setups that are in there. If you just focus on one of the setups that are in the playbook, you can still make really good money just looking for that one setup. Now, I tend to look for all of the setups as they play out, but you know, until you're really comfortable with all of the setups, just focus on one or two. All right, we have the signal in the red zone now, and the delta, it's rising, but notice how it's very weak. Like there's no thickness to those delta candles at all. So we want to take advantage of a weak delta and you know, find the trigger points and the timing, get the timing just right. So now it's starting to flash negative here. So even though we just crossed above that confirmation line, I mean, once that happens, technically you're starting to get into some bullish territory. But with a large sustained move like we've had, as long as that delta stays weak down here near that power zone, if we get a tick down from the red zone, that's a short. Looks like delta's gaining a little bit of strength here. We never got that tick down, so that was never confirmed. Not yet anyway. All right, now I'm seeing the buyer starting to step back in. Maybe this will be the turn here. We're also starting to see a little bit of tapering on the 5, so the delta candles are getting smaller there. And we're also ticking up from the power zone on the 15. Still no entry for me though. I want to see more of a cleaner setup. Now, if you want to be really aggressive, what you can do is wait for this close above the 8 SMA, and then put a limit order on the 8, and then get picked up on that first little pullback. Delta's still rising nicely for the bulls. Still in bearish territory though, so our signal line is up there in the power zone now. So we want to be on the lookout for a short. We're starting to approach that 50 EMA. Yeah, 5 minute is tapering. We might end up getting that delta cross on the 5. What time is it? It's 9:34, so in 1 minute that might be official on the 5 if the signal can close above the delta. Yeah, we want to watch for that tick down from the power zone on the 1. However, we just came out of a pretty strong downtrend. The delta is climbing with some strength. So even if we get a tick down from the power zone here, you're still kind of in iffy territory, because this whole area where the trend tries to change can be pretty turbulent. We are starting to get that tick down though, so we want to see the delta tapering or turn negative. Just tapering a little bit. Now where you could get burned on these moves is when it V-bottoms out of here, and those are never fun. I don't like V-bottoms. I hate them. All right, so that tick down was never confirmed. We pulled back up, so still waiting. Never actually touched the 50. I always feel better if it touches, because a lot of times you'll jump in on a tick down like this, and then it'll power back up, touch it, and then go down and stop you out in the process. Still holding here, still waiting. We got the tick down, but I just have a feeling it's going to want to make another jump here. So if it does, and we get a tick up in this power zone, and then we get a lower high on the signal, that's the red triangle. That is, I'll be more interested in shorting that. Yeah, I see the delta starting to pop a little bit now. So we tapered, but now it's gaining strength again, so the buyers are stepping back in. They weren't done yet. Also keep in mind we're still on the left side of the 8. Never close below it. That's another thing that you can use for more of a confirmation is, you know, you might get the signal on the cumulative delta, but if it didn't close on the side of the 8 that you're looking for, maybe just sit tight and wait for the next setup. Now we touch that 50. Another thing to watch for is if we start making higher highs here, and then we start making lower lows on this signal, we'll have some bearish divergence. So not only are we waiting for a lower high, but we're waiting for that to coincide with a weak delta. If the delta is still strong when that happens, it's it's not necessarily a good entry. We do have the 5 really tapering now. See how those delta candles are coming to a fine point, but we're still bearish on the 5. So, I mean, on a higher time frame, the shorts are still where it's at. This could still just be a somewhat of a pullback here. All right, we are starting to get that lower high in the power zone. We have higher high in the price, so we do have some bearish divergence. See, a lot of times they push it past the 50, I think, to draw in a lot of buyers, and then they get them here. So I'm waiting. I want to see a weak delta. We are tapering a little bit. All right, I'm going for it. I went short there. I'm in at 577.92. Now, our ATR is still relatively high. My number's at 76, so my 80 tick stop is still pretty darn small. However, it does take care of that top wick, so that's where my stop is going. We're still on the left side of the 8, keep in mind, so still, I guess you'd call it a little elevated risk until we get below the 8. And if we do close below the 8, another good entry is limit order on the 8 after the close. So an early exit here for me is a tick up when I'm underwater. So if we end up getting that here, I'm just going to pull the plug. We didn't quite get it. We almost got a tick up there. It closed down. It looks like it's up now, but on the last candle it closed down. So still holding. It's going to get me, isn't it? Jwaz, you got to get back on that elevator button. We want to go down, not up. All right, we got the official tick back up right there, so I pulled the plug. Let's see. 583.25 is where I'm out. So 5.25 points down. Keep the losses small. That's the name of the game. Learn how to lose, not how to win. Jwaz, I like how you have such good self-control and conviction on the tick-ups when they go against your trades. This is part of your risk management. Yeah, that I mean, it seems like such a small thing, but you know, getting out early instead of letting it hit your full stop when things are not going the way that they should be going, overall, in the end, you're gonna make a lot more money that way, just controlling your risk. Thanks, Jwaz. What happened in the elevator there? You were supposed to be pushing those buttons. Now see, when the delta crossed above this confirmation line, that is the time when you see this delta climbing the way that it is, that's what's happening right now. So regardless of what's happening on these higher time frames, this tells you what's happening right now. And right now, the buyers are in control. As long as that delta is rising and it's above the confirmation line, and the confirmation line is turning up the way that it is and getting that positive slope into it, that is when the bulls are in control. That is detailed in the playbook, and that is... So, you know, this short that I took here, I always take this first one even after the cross, just because a lot of times there'll just be more continuation with the earlier trend. But if the trend really truly is changing, this is where you're going to find out. And once it sort of confirms that, well, now I know that now I need to start looking for longs. So even if we start getting lower highs up here in the power zone, you know, after this first one fails, it's not really a good idea to keep taking those as long as this delta keeps rising the way it is. But you can take it in a certain scenario if the delta starts to, you know, have like zero slope to a negative slope on it. Like when it's turning over and it's changing from positive to negative, and that coincides with the lower high tick down from the power zone, that's when you want to pounce and take advantage of that weak delta. But right now, the delta's not weak. It's you know, it's steadily climbing here. So yeah, that pivot line here, that ended up being our turning point. Or as Stealth was pointing out earlier, our Monday low. We have another pivot coming up here, so we'll probably find a little bit of resistance up there. Hey, if you guys haven't done so yet, could you do me a favor and hit that like button? I would appreciate that. Yeah, I wish we ended up getting a little bit of a cleaner setup here for a long. That would have been nice. However, if you were using the 8, which I still like to use the 8 a lot in addition to the cumulative delta. So you wait for the it to prove that it's sort of in a bullish scenario, like it is when this delta's climbing. Then you could start buying the 8. See how it comes down, used it as support, wicks to it here, wicks to it multiple times here. It's not bad to buy those. Those are excellent entries. Sarif Badshah, are you a prop firm trader or a real account trader? I trade both. I started off with a personal account. I've been mainly trading a personal account, but I'm trying to get into the prop firm side of things. So we have our third tick down from that upper power zone. Still waiting for that delta to get weaker and start to roll over. The delta on the 5 is now positive, but see how thin it is? So it's pretty weak. So we're still technically in bearish territory here on the upper time frames. Sarif, what is your X? Do you mean like Twitter? Like Twitter X? I have 2 Twitter accounts, X accounts. I have TOMMYBOTS. Yeah. Let me see what my username is over there. If you search for TOMMYBOTS, you'll find it. TOMMYBOTS. Yeah, it's Tommy_bots. Here, I'll write it in chat. I just lost my chat. Where did it go? There it is. It's at Tommy_bots. I have a personal Twitter account, but I don't really use it. If you want to follow my personal account, it's Tommy Tompkins. Here is my... Hold on, I lost the chat again. Here we go. My personal one is at Tommy Tompkins, spelled like this. But like I said, I don't really use it very much. I should probably start posting more. I just never really, I don't know. Social media, it's not really been my thing. But I should probably start posting more. Delta's getting a little weaker here. See, we start tapering down. It's still climbing steadily, though. It has that positive slope, so it's still not a great short yet. Social will help get attention and grow your viewership. Yeah, I agree. It just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and I'm pretty busy. I got kids, and as soon as I'm not trading, I'm working on other projects and things, and I've owned my own business for since 2007. I've been self-employed, and so I always have a lot of stuff going on. To find time to post on social media, it's always been kind of hard for me. If you need any social work, I can help. I'm free. Well, I will keep that in mind. Thanks for offering. Delta's gaining a little bit of strength on the 5. That Delta candle is a little thicker than the previous one. So, earlier I said I hate V-bottoms. This is I call that a V-bottom. Now, there are opportunities also in here that we did not take advantage of. So we still have those bull flag breakouts. You got one here. You got one here. There's one playing out right now here. So, if you're marking those out, I personally have not been taking those because, I don't know, V-bottoms just, they're so rare. Well, maybe they're not as rare as I think they are. They feel like they're really rare, and so I feel like if I try, jumping in on that, I'm just going to get burned. But you can see that these would have worked out. So you got your pull, you got your consolidation, your tick up. So there's your entry. Here's your pull, your consolidation. There's your tick up. So that's another entry for another leg up. And but typically the legs get shorter and shorter. This one's longer than this one, so maybe we're going to keep moving up to that pivot line there. We'll see. How many years have you been trading? Well, I started trading crypto in 2020. Well, it was around 2020. It's when I started trading crypto. I thought it would be really easy, and it wasn't. Well, it was at first, actually. And that's actually that's actually what kind of burned me. Is I thought I could just, pick up some indicators and just start trading and figure it out. It'd be really easy. And at first I actually made a lot of money, and, because the market was moving really well. And I mean, it was hard to lose in crypto while things were running really nice. And then I learned the hard way that it doesn't go up all the time. So I lost a bunch of money. But after that happened, I sat down and I'm like, I just really need to, I've always been the type of person that anytime I've been presented with a challenge, I always find a way to figure it out, whether it be in business or, whatnot. And I didn't want to let this be the one thing that I couldn't do. So I just worked at it. I came up with a lot of my own strategies and back tested every single day. That's actually, I would say that's probably the number one thing that really helped me, was all the back testing that I did, and all of the different strategies and things that I was coming up with. Like, I wanted to prove on paper that it's actually sustainable. And what I learned by doing that is that the market kind of has a lot of these different market conditions. So like, one strategy might work really well in one market condition, but it totally sucks in another one. And so as the years kind of went by, I learned that you really have to identify the market condition first and then apply the right setups to the market condition. And a couple years ago, I started trading with this Cumulative Delta, and I tried a lot of different strategies since then. And every single time I would try something new, I always end up going back to this Cumulative Delta. Like, it was the one thing that seemed like the most promising of everything that I tried. And, but there wasn't really a lot of, like, in the Zeiierman group itself, there wasn't, that the Zeiierman group is Zeiierman is the developer of this indicator. There wasn't a whole lot of information about like how to use it. So I really kind of had to sit down, and all of these setups and these patterns and everything that I've come up with, I've come up with all of those on my own. Like, there was really nobody at Zeiierman that taught those. And so, just after backtesting it so much, and I still backtest, like I try to backtest almost every day, just to kind of keep my mind sharp with the different setups and things that are going on. And it just ended up proving to be a really profitable strategy. And so I sat down and I initially wrote a playbook for myself, or not necessarily a playbook, but I wrote like, I had all of my rules and everything like listed out, and I would practice, looking for those setups and following those rules. And then I had some other traders who were asking me for a more detailed like playbook. So I ended up writing a playbook for some other traders in the Zeiierman group, and just recently released that playbook. So that's kind of where I'm at now. So have you ever did gambling? No, I've never been a gambler. And a lot of people look at trading as gambling, and I don't really look at it that way. I think that there's a way to still put the the probabilities in your favor. And to me, I look at gambling as you don't you're not really putting any methodology or any strategy in your favor. Like, you know, if you're just rolling the dice, like you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. You have zero control of that. But with this, you have control over your risk. You have control over, you know, what setups to enter on, what setups to stay out of. You just have a lot more control. It's more like you are the house in a casino, more so than it is you're the gambler. Like you're putting probabilities on your side. So that's how I look at it anyway. Do you live stream every day? Well, this is all new to me. I just started live streaming, what, like a week ago? Maybe a week and a half ago? Something like that. So I'm going to try to stream every day as long as people are interested. I figured if nobody's interested, I'll just go back to doing this by myself. But this is basically what I do every day, every morning. So you're different than others. You really wrote a playbook. Yeah, I did. And the link is up there. So if you haven't checked it out, download it. It's a free download. It's about the cumulative delta indicator though. So, and you have to be a member of the Zeiierman group to use the indicator. So if you're not a member, you still have to become a member, but the playbook itself and the strategies, everything in there, it's all free. There's so many indicators without solid explanation and background. Instead, appreciate focusing on a few. Yeah, there is. And, you know, the problem is I think a lot of people look at indicators as like just telling you exactly how to trade. But I don't think that's the right way to look at them. I think you should look at them more so as just tools in a toolbox. And, you know, the same way that, like, say you wanted to build furniture and, you know, say somebody handed you all of these amazing tools that a carpenter would use to build amazing furniture. Like, even though you have all the tools, you still have to know how to build things in order to use those tools to make something good out of it. And the Zeiierman group is just like that. I mean, they provide a very nice professional quality set of tools, but you still have to know how to trade in order to implement those tools and to make something good of it. So, you know, you can't just follow buy, sell signals that flash on the screen. I mean, that's not going to work because it doesn't take into account the market conditions and everything else that you have to be thinking about. So, but if you read through the playbook, you'll see that I teach you how to identify the market conditions, based off the market condition, what setups that you should be looking for. So there's definitely a lot more structure around it. Not very promoting. If wins 0 and losses 2 on live stats. Am I missing something? Well, if you joined late, I did miss the big move down. I wasn't around. I wasn't trading then, so I'm getting in late here, and there just hasn't really been a lot of setups yet. So for newcomers, it's quite overwhelming with all of those indicators. Yeah, it can be, for sure. And that's why I would recommend just focusing on one that works really well. Or learn how to master just one. We are getting a tick up from the green zone. The delta is negative though. So we might have a setup developing here. We are on the left side of that 8 SMA though. The tick up is not confirmed. Not yet. The delta has a negative slope to it, so it's something I don't really like to see down here. So if I do take a long here, I'm going to keep a short leash on it. I'd feel better if it was down there in that lower power zone. So I'm going to just hold off here for a second. Yeah, that delta is gaining more negative momentum now. So yeah, definitely not ready for a long. Keep in mind, you want to anticipate the potential bigger moves on the higher time frames as well. So we're still under the confirmation line on the 5. The signal is now at the midline on the 5, so if we get a tick down in this area, that could still push down on the 5 minute. On the 15, the delta is still falling pretty steadily. And this signal, if it gets up in here and ticks down with the delta still falling, that is also a good short setup. So we want to see if we can trigger those on the 1. We are getting a tick up from that lower power zone here. I want to see the delta tapering more or going positive. So I'm going to hold off. Another thing to watch for here is we have our potential bear flag set up. But if you're just looking at the cumulative delta alone, this is a bullish setup here. If we get this tick up from the lower power zone and the delta starts to turn back up, that is bullish. So there's going to be a lot of people trying to go short here on that bear flag. And it might catch them on the wrong side. Still no official tick up from the power zone yet. Now, if we do go long here, and if it fails, this is not a bad area to flip short just because we do have this bear flag if that does end up playing out. Plus, on the 15 and the 5, those are setting up for what looks to be a short setup over there. But on the 1, it's still bullish, so we're still waiting for that to fall in line. We are breaking this trend line here, but I'm kind of expecting it more to be a failed breakout to the downside. The reason why I say that is because this delta is starting to turn up. I could see it, even though it's negative, it's turning up a little bit. Slope is something you always want to pay attention to. Now, if it was doing the opposite, if the delta was rounding down like this, then for sure the shorts would have it then. And it still might do that. We'll see. But like I said, I'm still kind of expecting more of a failed breakout here. All right, I am long. From 593. Looks like 593 even. So we have the delta turning up, as I was saying. The delta starting to turn positive. That's what we want to see. Now keep in mind, like I was saying, this could still round over and then go more in to the short scenario that could potentially play out on the 15 and the 5. So we always want to keep that in mind. So if this fails, I'll probably flip short. What is your buy strategy and sell strategy? It's all detailed in the playbook. So if you download the playbook and read through it, all the setups that I'm taking are in there. So this is interesting because the delta has turned up, but it's still negative. So we want to see that turn positive. We don't want that, like, even though it's rising, we don't really want to see that be negative. We want to see it turn positive. Now, if we get this tick down here, which we might get, I'm going to flip short. We haven't officially ticked down. No, it looks like we did. Let's go ahead and flatten. I just got out here at 588.25. Oop, I'm sorry. 588.25. What did I do there? Oh. 88.25. There we go. All right, so I got out just because it's having a hard time making the push here. So again, keeping my losers as small as I can. But we just got the higher low, so I'm back in now. So see, it ticked down, but we got the green triangle, and we still have that positive slope where it's turning positive there. So I'm giving this one more shot here. 596. So I lost, looks like 4 3/4 points on that one. This is getting into chop territory. We have an alternating thin spotty delta. It's also detailed in the playbook. So if that continues, we're just going to probably stay out. We're starting to tick down here. All right, pulled the plug again. Like I said, thin, choppy, spotty delta. I don't like those. This will probably end up rounding over with that 5 and the 15, setting up for more of a bearish move down. Yeah, it just didn't want to make that push. See, now the delta's starting to roll over on the 1. Excuse me. So that one was 13.5. So far, not a great day for me. But like I said, we got in late. Had we been in earlier to catch those other moves, if my son would not have overslept today and I didn't have to take him to school, then we'd be having a much different day right now. So there's that. Took a while for that bear flag to play out, but it's playing out. So we got the second tick down right here when it started rolling over. I could have flipped short there. I said I was going to do that earlier, but I wanted to give that long one more try. So, and again, I'm missing this more intentionally because this is more of a bullish setup here with the signal in the green zone, the delta over the confirmation line. Confirmation line still has a positive slope to it. So, like in the playbook, you would not go short here. You would go short over here if these ended up triggering, because that's a... See how on the 5 we're ticking down from the upper half, the red zone now? So on the 5, it's just starting to trigger. It's just that the 1 was kind of janky in the way that it's trying to fall in line here. So we'll just wait for the next short opportunity if we can get one. But yeah, and like I was saying earlier, after a big move, it usually turns into like a turbulent area. And when you get these turbulent areas, you're going to get these thin deltas, which basically indicates that there's no real conviction to either side. So the bulls really aren't in control. The bears really aren't in control. They're just kind of, playing tug of war with each other. And when that happens, you end up just kind of chopping around more. So you get these signals that aren't as clean. What we want to see is nice, consistent, thick deltas like this. That's what we want to see. But I didn't even start trading today until we were in this area. So by that time, the big move was already over. And then we V-bottomed. There wasn't really a clear long entry on this V-bottom. If we had more of a delta squeeze setup, which is detailed in the playbook, which we didn't get, but if we got that, I might have went long there. So we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. It's just market conditions aren't really that great right now. Now we're starting to see this delta turning over more. So if we can get this delta back under the confirmation line and then get the signal to pull in the upper half and tick down, that is our short setup. Also, you can look for bear flag setups on the way down. Temp email. Still can't set up account, Zeiierman website, or see what lifetime price for Indicator is. Not really sure why you'd be having trouble there. Maybe you can shoot an email to Zeiierman. I think they have a contact link on their website. By the way, I do not work for Zeiierman, so I'm not a paid employee or anything. I am just a customer like you guys. Stealth went short off the 5 minute, just had to wait for the 1 minute to turn. Yeah. Yeah, no, that 5 minute, I saw that developing and I figured that was going to be the trigger there, but it was just kind of messy right here. I didn't have a clean entry. Now, if you were shorting bear flags there and we're just waiting for a tick down with a negative delta, you definitely had that a couple times. That probably was the more of the correct thing to do there. Well, it's probably a good time for a bathroom break. I will be right back. What do we got going on? That 5 minute is still in force. That short signal on the 5 is still in force. So we got the delta turning down. It's negative. Tick down from that upper red zone. The 1 is still having trouble kind of falling in line here though. Delta's still above the confirmation line. It's thin. The slope on it is flat right now. So we were turning over, but it kind of put the brakes on. We are ticking down now. We potentially have somewhat of a bear flag set up here, but it's kind of steep. I don't like them when they're steep. I prefer them when they're more like a 45-degree angle. I'd like to see more consolidation above that, kind of like what we had on the last one. However, we do have the 5 and 15 that are triggered, so might give this one a shot here. All right, I just went short on this signal. I am short from 559. I don't really like this setup. Like I said, the 1, it's not really falling in line yet. Yeah, I'm going to get burned on this one. Delta's starting to turn positive on the 1. And we're getting a higher low. All right. That hit my full 80 tick stop, which... See, it's kind of hard to argue with the... if the 1 isn't really showing you what you want to be seeing, a lot of times you end up paying the price like I just did. So that's minus 18 1/4 on that for me. By the way, when we're talking wins and losses, my win rate is not very high because my losers are usually very tiny or near break even. So I don't really look at win rate too much. That's not a big factor for me. Your risk reward in the end overall is definitely a lot more important. Did you guys lose my camera? I think my camera might have just shut off. So if I was just following the 1 minute signals here, we did get a higher low in the green zone with the positive delta above the confirmation line. That is a long setup. So is this tick down from the lower power zone. Or I'm sorry, tick up from the lower power zone. So I knew that it was risky to go short there. I should have been just following the signals on the 1 and instead of trying to make it fall in line with what's happening on the higher time frames. See, sometimes the higher time frames can really kind of screw with your mind because you're trying to trigger a bigger move over there, but a lot of times it can just complicate things unnecessarily. So like if I was to black that out and not even look at the higher time frames at all, and just focus on the 1, I would not have gone short there. I would have waited for, we were in the green zone here. Everything was still saying bullish. But sometimes you need to be reminded of that, I guess. Now the delta's looking really strong here on the 1. So the bulls are stepping back in. Yeah, the 5-minute is very relevant, but it's not necessary. I say this a lot. Like if you just focus on the 1 without looking at the 5 at all, you're going to remove a lot of potential complication. The 5 is still very helpful for sure. But 15 relevant to 1, less hourly, even less, but considering they provide directional momentum, they're all relevant. Yeah, true. Yep, the 5 is more relevant than the 15 when you're using the 1 for entries. And the 15 is more relevant than the hourly, and so on. It's nice to get them to all fall in line and to find that trigger point on the 1 that triggers all of them. That's when you get these massive big moves. But those are fairly rare to get it to all fall in line like that. So, even if you weren't paying attention to that, you're still going to get the signals on the 1. So as long as you're taking the signals, you're still going to get the move. You just might, in my mind, that just influences my exit strategy more than my entry strategy. So if I see that we're really gaining momentum on those higher time frames and I'm in a trade, I might choose a slightly different exit strategy and stay in longer. Have you ever thought about trading the 5-minute signals and time them in the 1 minute? Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what we were just talking about, like triggering moves on the 5 with entries on the 1. And that's actually what we were talking about doing earlier. So like earlier, I was mentioning that the signal made it to this upper zone, and the delta was under the confirmation line. So technically we're bearish. So if this ticks down, then we want to look for shorts. And so I was looking for a short setup on the 1 to trigger the 5. That's what I was trying to do over here. But I never really got a really good short setup. There was this bear flag setup. But the 1 didn't really coincide with that. And sure enough, we turned here. So but we did tick up on the 5 right after that. So we ticked down, but we ticked back up. And the 1 coincides more with this tick up than it ever did the tick down, if that makes sense. So in other words, I should have just been waiting, looking for the long and triggering this tick up on the 5. But it just looks so bearish, looking at the 15 and the 5 before we had this next tick up here. So a lot of times, if you don't see what you're looking for, it's better to just sit on your hands and wait. Be patient and wait for them to fall more in line. So yeah, the 1 is very strong now. And it makes this pattern a lot where we have this push down, we push up, we come back down, we don't take out the low, and then we push up again and take out this high right here. This is a very bullish W pattern. So if we, close above this pivot here and then make it above VWAP, I mean, we could just start cruising to the upside. And I find that this happens to me a lot too, where if I'm in the wrong side of a trade, I'm worried about, my stop getting hit. I'm not really paying attention sometimes to what I should be, which is, the long signal here. In this case, had I been paying more attention to that as this was playing out, I should have just flipped long. Even though I got stopped out and I was in that trade on the wrong side, I should have just flipped long right there. But I missed it. Now we are back to VWAP. So we made it above that pivot. Yeah, the long signal here was right there. That green triangle, the higher low. It ran 92 points since that signal. On the 5, we are definitely turning back up now. You see how we were rounding down, but now we're rounding back up on that delta? The delta's gaining strength. It's actually looks like it's going to close above that confirmation line. So times it's 10:49. So in 1 minute, if this closes there, which it's going to, that is officially going to turn bullish. So we're going to go ahead and flip the 5 minute to bullish now. We're no longer in bearish territory there. Still bearish on the 15 though. Did anybody catch this high or low here? On the 1? JWaz, you caught it? Good. Are you still in? Ah. When you see this, all that strength in that delta, usually as long as it keeps climbing and it's gaining strength, I'll usually just hold it until that a thin delta cross, and then you'll get the majority of that move. Still climbing. We're above VWAP. Oh, I wish I would not have missed that. So this whole bear flag setup here that pushed the downside, that whole scenario right here just kind of screwed with my mind. Well, you got 30 points out of it. That's pretty good. Delta's still strong and climbing. On the 15, Delta's actually turning positive. So that turned around pretty quick. Still bearish on the 15 though. As long as that Delta stays under the confirmation line, we're bearish there. We also have these little mini bull flag setups. Got our pull, break. Got our pull, break. Got our pull, break. There's just not much of a consolidation, but they're little mini bull flags. So, you know, you get this consolidation, the tick up right here with the very strong rising delta. Well, yeah, that one's iffy though, because see this candle's, you'd be up way up here. You wouldn't be in here on the break. So I like them to consolidate a little bit more before trying to jump in on those. That's why you got to get that initial move. Otherwise it just gets too risky. Also notice how strong this move is. It closed above the 8 here on this signal, and ever since then, it hasn't even retested the 8. Hasn't even touched it. It's a sign of strength. It's quite the push up. Hopefully some of you guys are in this. But notice how why I say when you get these strong momentum moves, you at least want to wait until the signal closes under the delta. And that allows you to capture these giant moves. So you would be up, it's like 125 points if you caught this. Now, if the delta, see, we did get a couple tick downs from that upper power zone, but notice that when you got them, the delta was not tapering. It was very strong throughout those moves. So I would have just ignored those. Now, if the delta looked like this, see how, back over here, how the delta is very thin, and we're getting these lower high tick downs up there. Those for sure, right? If I was in a long there, I'd be pulling the plug. But when you see this strength, you don't want to pull it too early. Now here, it looks like it might have, I can barely see it. Let me change my view here a little bit. Right here on that candle, the signal like barely closed under the delta. That would be the first place that I'd take profit if I was in this trade. And had you done that, that would have been 112 3/4 points. Now the delta's starting to taper more. Now it's running over. So the buyers are stepping away. On the 5, you also have the signal in that upper power zone. So you don't want to go long up there. Definitely a profit-taking area. We have the 11 o'clock hourly candle in about 15 seconds. We'll see if that gives us a little bit of a pullback. Closed under the 8. See what Bitcoin's doing. $94,062. Still looking pretty good. Can you guys hear my trading view alerts when they go off? I don't know if that's like right there. One just went off. I don't know if that's coming through the mic or if it's actually streaming my desktop audio. Yeah, I should find a way to turn that off. So it's probably annoying for you guys to hear that little beep. Okay, we closed under that delta. We ticked back up. There's a potential for a delta squeeze scenario in this area we want to watch for. However, this was such a strong move, and confirmation line still has a really nice positive slope. There's a lot of space in between the confirmation line and the delta right here. I prefer there to be less space. So like if time plays out a little bit more, ends up over here, and the confirmation line is closer to this power zone, that's kind of the sweet spot for a delta squeeze. But delta squeeze can still work here. Looks like we're starting to potentially get one right now. I went ahead and took that. So I am short from right here at 69. Wait, what was that? 690.50. Delta is flashing negative. That's what we want to see. We are ticking down on the 5. Something to be aware of. So if the delta's tapering on the 5 would be triggering a short setup. Yeah, it's probably going to retest VWAP. I agree with you. Now, this was a fairly bullish move up here, and like I said, there's a lot of space in between this confirmation line and the delta. I want that to be closer together. So that tells me to keep a relatively short leash on this. So more of a scalp. I got to start getting some winners on the board. Having my late start today just kind of killed my whole session. Hopefully, this will be one of those winners. I don't want to see the signal tick up here. I want it to keep pointing down. And I want that delta to start showing a little bit of negative momentum in it. We have the negative slope on it, which is good. It's still very thin, so we need more sellers to step in. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I just noticed that I don't have the proper view on the stream. There, I just changed it back so you could see the whole thing. So we do have more negative momentum showing up in that delta. We want to see it keep growing. Hopefully, we'll just slice right through that VWAP and go back down. That would be good for me. We did officially trigger that tick down from the upper power zone on the 5. So that is the move we're trying to play off of now. But if this just ends up being a VWAP retest, we could bounce here. Let's go ahead and move my stop to break even. All right, we're slicing through VWAP. Hopefully it continues. Gaining a little bit more momentum in that delta. It's looking good. So replaying this back in your mind a little bit, you see when I was saying to wait for to exit on the delta cross, you see how perfect that exit was if you were in that? It's beautiful. Part of me wants to just go ahead and take profit here just to get a winner on the board because I've had such a crappy day so far. But I should probably just follow my rules and wait for an exit signal. Chart seems frozen. Really? Oh. Weird. No? Does anybody else see the chart frozen? Okay. That makes me feel better. Looks like we're finding a little support on the 200 there. All right, we are ticking up from that lower power zone, but it is not confirmed. It's not official. So I'm still holding. On this tick up, if the delta is tapering, I'm actually, not only am I going to exit, but I'm going to flip. But only if the delta looks like it's cooperating. If the delta is crossing back under that confirmation line, I'll probably wait for a higher low on the signal. Still haven't ticked up. So far, we're up about 40 points. That delta looks like it's gonna cross back under the confirmation line. And if this 5-minute signal really starts to play out and push here, we could end up right back down here. So that is what I'm crossing my fingers for. Delta's gaining a little strength, and those delta candles are getting fatter. Up about 52 points now. All right, so looks like if I exit here, I'm back to break even for the day. But I'm going to be patient, wait for my signal. There could be more downside here. We are ticking up from the lower power zone. We're under the 50 now. Usually these tick ups, when it crosses under the confirmation line, like if you try to go long there, those really don't have that high of a win rate. So even if we tick up here, I might just end up holding for a lower high. I'm sorry, a higher low to go long. So yeah, everything's playing out the way I'd like to see it. Now we're at about 61 points. This is a pretty good example of why win rate doesn't really matter so much. Because if I win this trade, if I exit right now, I'm back to break even on one winner out of how many losses did I have? 5. So, you know, managing your risk is the key to the game here. Keep those losers small because you don't need very many winners. All you need is a couple. You know, and had I actually taken this previous trade, I'd be up a ton. It's also why letting your winners run and be patient and wait for the exit signal instead of exiting too early, that is also key, because you need those big risk to reward ratios under your belt to make up for all the tiny losses and break evens. JWaz, so are you waiting for a higher low exit signal on this short you are saying? Well, depends on what the delta is doing. If the delta is really tapering while we tick up here, I'm just going to pull it. Because if a short's still going to play out, I can always jump back in. If the delta looks like it's gaining momentum and these candles are getting fatter and fatter, I'm just going to hold. So far, so good. Be nice to see it just flush. On the 5, the delta is actually starting to turn over now. It's turning negative. All right, we are starting to tick up. Another option here is to just wait for a close above the 8. There's a lot of options. You could do that. You can trail wicks. You can just get out on the first tick up. Now that, technically it ticked up, but it was such a small little tick up. We'll see if that ends up being the bottom here. But see, there's not a lot of tapering in that delta, so I'm not convinced this is the turning point yet. Could be, but still looks to me like there's more downside here. But if you wanted to keep it simple, the easiest thing to do is just wait for a close above the 8. As long as it stays on this side of the 8, it could run like that for a long time. Getting a little bit more of a tick up there. Delta is tapering a little bit. This might just end up being a little bit of a bear flag here. So my exit will either be a higher low on the signal or a close above the 8. The 8 is key if you're trying to catch a nice momentum move. I forgot, do you use the EMA or MMA for the 8? I use the SMA for the 8. So everything else on the screen, my 20, my 50, all of that is EMAs. But for the 8, I use the SMA. Still holding, up about 80 points now. Starting to see some thickness return to that delta. That is what we're looking for. See how it's gaining momentum, is gaining strength. You don't want to exit when it's doing that. On the 15, we're triggering a tick down with that negative slope. So see on the 15, we still have a, even though it turned positive for a second there, we have an overall negative slope to it. And we are ticking down. We got that tick down from the power zone on the 5. So this is all playing out very nicely here. We have a nice consistent delta on the 1. Looks like we're up about 100 points now. One thing that we want to watch for is we do have a significant order block here with this significant move up, which it might try to use as support. So another thing you could do is just take profit there. It'd be 125 points if you jumped in on that delta squeeze. We are starting to signal a higher low. However, the delta still looks like it wants to continue. So I'm going to hold. Yeah, everything is still playing out on those higher time frames. Be nice if we get some nice follow through with those. What would be really nice is if we just slice right through that order block and end up back down here towards that pivot or the low of day. We also have a little bit of a trend line here. We might end up retesting and going lower. But we will see. Does she want to bounce here? We do have more tapering on the delta, so it might try. If it closes above the 8, I'm going to pull the plug. And I'm out. So that ended up being 603.25, so 87 points. I am back in the profit, even after all those losers. What did I say that was? 87. There we go. We have a positive P&L on the screen. So the higher low was your exit, right? Well, the higher low was when I perked up. That would have been a better exit. And initially I told myself I would exit on the first higher low, but I thought, I started looking at this order block here thinking it's probably going to want to touch that. And so I said, okay, I'm going to use the 8 instead. And then we ended up closing above the 8. So that's the 8 was that's what I chose to use for my exit strategy there. How beautiful is this turn, though? See that? Got the delta cross for the exit of that previous trade that we simulated. Then we got the delta squeeze for the short. Oh, beautiful. All right. Be right back. Man, my head is still just aching. That Advil that I took earlier didn't really do much of anything. Okay, so what are we looking for here? On the 1, we're bearish. Delta is under the confirmation line. We now have a negative slope on that confirmation line. So any tick down from somewhere up by that upper power zone with a weak delta, that would be another short. Now, we should point this out. We actually have chop here on the 5. We have that thin alternating delta, and we also have chop on the 15. And it is lunchtime. So we might be somewhere near the beginning of a choppy scenario. Something to keep in mind. So if we start seeing chop on the 1, then I'm probably going to call it for the day. And try not to push my luck now that I'm positive again. But a tick down from that upper power zone is not enough. Like, you still want to see the delta. You want to see weakness in the delta. If it's not showing any weakness and it's just, if it keeps climbing like this, you don't want to short against that. Another potential scenario that we have setting up here is if we go into more of a ranging market condition, this this confirmation line could end up just kind of flattening out here, you know, near the midline. And if that's the case, buying tick-ups from the lower power zone and selling tick-ups from the upper power zone, you can do that over and over and make a lot of money. As long as you're in that ranging market condition. So the key is to identify what market condition you're trading in and identify it early. If you can identify it early, you can take advantage of that. So we still have people here on the stream. How many people we got here? Looks like there's 12 or 13 of you guys still sticking around. Did anybody catch that delta squeeze down? It's snowing outside over here. It's the first sign of snow that I've seen this year. It's going to start getting colder here in Minnesota. This delta squeeze right here is a textbook setup. This is exactly what's laid out in the playbook. Yeah. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If it's not, I will stop doing it. Just keep it to myself. But as long as I can help some of you guys out and we can make it a little fun by trading as a group. I don't know, does that break any prop firm rules if everybody is kind of making the same trades and trading as a group? I don't know if it does or not. I don't know if they have rules against that. I'm sure they probably do. There are tons of people that do this thing and copy trade, basically. Yeah, I figured. Shandies. Yes, it's very helpful. Thanks. You're welcome. You know, I enjoy it too myself because I think it, you know, if I'm vocalizing what I'm thinking, I think it helps me just psychologically a little bit better. Now today's a little tough because I've had a headache all morning, but I do think it's helpful for me too, just talking to somebody about what I'm thinking, you know, going through these setups. So if I can benefit from it and you guys can benefit, it's a win-win. We are flashing a tick down from that upper power zone. So I want to see weakness in that delta. I'm not seeing a whole lot of weakness right now. And we're back up at that pivot point. So that could be some resistance here. It's tapering a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. Let's see where I'm in. I'm short at 644.75. Yeah, I should have waited for more weakness there, probably. But we'll see how we do here. We're right there up at that pivot point, which is why I have a little bit more conviction in this one. And we're under that confirmation line, so... I mean, technically, this satisfies our rules. All right, now we just need a push. A push down. Need to get JWAS back on the elevator button. My exit here is a tick up. If I'm underwater and it ticks up, I'm pulling the plug. We are currently ticking up, but it is not official. We have 50 seconds. And that's why I use my trading timer, by the way. I don't know if you guys are using that or not. Ten seconds. Are we going to tick up? Yes, we did. So I pulled the plug. Let's see where it got me at. 652.25. Right there. Seven and a half points. All right, and now it looks like it's starting to kick in. Just in a little too soon. So now I'm back in a short. This is the weakness I was talking about. So like being patient really helps there. I just kind of jumped the gun on that. So it was tapering a little on that tick down. But you could see like now it's actually turning negative. Like that's, and we have more of an engulfing candle there. So that's better. The first lower high and the first higher low after a move from the other side of the indicator, it's usually a good setup. So like notice this one, this was the first higher low from the power zone after dropping from the top. Now this is the first lower high after coming from the bottom. It's also, you know, if that's the only setup you ever trade, you could, now it's the first one. So if it fails and it does it again, like you don't want to keep taking them, but the first one after a drop or after a rise, you could be profitable doing that alone. And again, if it ticks up and I am underwater, that is my early exit. Also, if the delta starts flashing positive right here, that would tell us that we're entering a chop scenario. So I want to put it on my radar. And if we do start chopping, then I'm probably just going to be done for the day. But we're not chopping yet. I just have it on there just so it's on my radar. We are flashing a lower high on the 5, just so you guys know. That's bearish with the negative delta on the 5. We're back at my break even. We're not ticking up though. So still don't have an exit signal. We are starting to flash a positive delta though. Whew, we almost ticked up there. This might end up hitting my stop after all. We'll see. We are ticking up right now and we're flashing positive. So we are starting to enter a chop scenario. But hopefully we just push back down and go back to being bearish. "12 seconds. All right, I am out at break even. I see why I wait for the candle to close. It almost hit my stop, but if you wait for the signal, a lot of times it either gets you at break even or a very small, tiny loss. You want to keep your losses small. So go ahead and update my numbers here. So that's 2 break evens now. But like I said, we could be entering more of a chop situation here. So you don't want to keep trading through chop. You want to, that's your signal to walk away and enjoy the day. Now it hasn't officially flashed positive. So I'm going to give it one more chance here. I'll wait to see if we actually get our positive delta, but it looks like we kind of lost our momentum there. It's just flat. Flashing a lower high. It's not official. We do have chop on the higher time frames, on 15 and the 5. We do have chop there. Just not on the 1 yet. All right, well, it's flashing positive on the 1, so that's our first sign of chop. And it is just before noon, lunchtime. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here. End the day on a positive note. I was able to pull it back into the green, so hopefully my son doesn't oversleep tomorrow, and I'll be able to be online at hopefully 8 a.m. Central Time. So good luck. We will see you guys tomorrow. All right, take care, guys. Good luck.
Oh, wow, look at that move. It's like one of those big Delta candles. I mean, who even trades those tiny candles anymore? I like big fat candles, I can't deny. When the Delta's green and riding high, when a chart spikes thick with a bullish wick, I'm glued to my screen, that's the trick. I want to bounce quick, can't let it go. Big Delta bars, let that volume show. I'm zooming out, yeah, that's my groove. Catching waves in a Delta move. Wanna trade slow? Nah, too tame. This market's got heat, I'm in the game. Delta's skinny, not my taste. Fat candles on my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries, stacking tall, no weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big Delta's not golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're a bore. Give me fat Deltas, I want more. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through. You know, don't you fold. Big Deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. I like big fat candles, can't deny. When the volume surges up so high, skinny trades can take a seat. Big fat Deltas are what I be. Well, traders low, let me see that log is goes on my happy Delta. Skinny, not my taste. Fat candles on my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries, stacking tall. No weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big Delta's my golden key. Big Delta's my golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're a bore. Give me fat deltas, I want more. Like those big moves, yeah. Wanna break through, you know. And hold and play, don't you fold. Big deltas fill the charter with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. Like those thick moves, yeah. Wanna break through, you know. Then hold and play, don't you fold. Big deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right.